My husband's ex-wife and kids hate me, and I'm not fond of them either. They all think I'm the reason they can't get back together, even though she's the one who cheated, and I didn't meet him until he was in the middle of their divorce negotiations. His kids were rude to me, and when I was pregnant with our first child, they told me I should hurry and get an abortion before it was too late. Anyway, during the divorce negotiations, my husband voluntarily gave up the paid-off house so that his kids wouldn't have to move schools. He agreed to pay child support beyond what the courts would have imposed, and his alimony amount is more than her salary. In return, she agreed to wait to sell the house or move until the youngest was 18. Something happened, and she sold the house and moved into an apartment. This past weekend, he came and asked if I would object to him buying her another house because she's missing out on her time with the kids. They refused to stay in her cramped apartment. I said no, and that she needed to live with the consequences of her bad decisions. He begged, but I stood my ground. I reminded him that we have a child together and another on the way. Any money he spends on his ex is taking away from their future. He argued that the kids need a home, and I countered that they each have their own rooms in our house. Even though I can't stand them, I can be an adult and tolerate them if it means he doesn't buy his ex a house. He said it'll be in our names, but I countered that interest rates are high and the housing market in our area is crashing, so we'll lose money if we buy a house now, which will affect our children's future. His ex reached out to his parents, and now they're on my case about making their grandkids homeless. It feels like everyone's making me out to be the wicked stepmother, and I'm the crazy one. I can't be the only one to think it's crazy for a husband to buy his ex a house. Am I the idiot for not letting my husband buy a house for his ex and his kids? Not the idiot. So the ex had a fully paid up house, a job, in alimony, which was more than her salary, but she still sold her house and now wants another one? Fully paid up, too. What happened to the money she got from selling the house? Why is it your fault when she's the one who sold the house? Also, your stepkids are not homeless. They have 2 houses. They just don't like either. You need to focus on yourself and your kids. Your husband needs some common sense. If your in-laws think she should have a new house, they can buy her one. The husband and in-laws need to realize OP's 2 kids with the husband also need the financial security of a dual income home. The ex was receiving her salary, spousal support, and child support. Property taxes and utilities should be less than a mortgage or rent. So what money troubles did the ex have that required her to sell her paid-off home? Maybe it's time for OP to remind the in-laws her kids are just as much their grandkids too, and she can just as quickly pull the same crap as the ex. What worries me is that the husband is so focused on a house for his kids that he's lost sight that his ex may not be a suitable person to raise these kids. That money went somewhere. Whenever anyone bugs OP about buying a new house, she should answer with, "She had a house. What did she do with the money?" I am betting gambling or drugs. If those sort of things are not addressed, then the next house will be sold too. I feel like he's throwing money into a fire for her. The ex is getting a salary, alimony, and the full proceeds of a paid-off house, yet she's living in a cramped apartment? Unless she has an undisclosed source of debt, the math isn't mathing. I would caution OP to make sure her finances are either separate or well monitored. Possibly even gets a written agreement that no money she makes or account she contributes to will be used in a purchase above a certain amount with her agreement, something to protect her and, quite frankly, the financial security of all the kids. Honey, I'd keep an eye out because I reckon he'll do it behind your back. Update. No one is sure why she had to sell the house. She and my husband argued for weeks after it was already done. All we know for sure is that she doesn't have much left after the sale. The house was fully paid off with no liens. He transferred full ownership to her, so she was solely responsible for the taxes and maintenance. His kids have been living with us for a month, and we've settled into this silent routine. I don't try to mother them, and they ignore me. We provide them with the same food we eat and whatever else they need. My husband parents them. The low-end price of a house in our area and within their schools is about $300,000. I can deal with the situation until they're 18 and all out of the house, if it means we're not spending at least $300,000. My husband and I make about the same. We have our joint account and separate accounts. If he does buy her another house, it'll only be with his money, so it won't affect me financially. However, what if he loses his job soon afterward, has an accident where he can no longer work, or any of the other reasons I don't want to happen but have to plan for our children? They had an agreement and she broke it, but there's nothing my husband can do about it now. He can't sue for full custody because the kids live full-time with us. He's not paying child support since they are, and she's not arguing about that. He can't sue her for the house or money she doesn't have. My 40 female, daughter 21, Kate, is pregnant by her boyfriend, Matt, 22. Kate lives with me, and Matt lives with his dad and stepmom. They want to get an apartment together, but neither Kate nor Matt are good with money, so they have zero savings. Kate's not working. She quit about 4 weeks ago when she found out she was pregnant. Matt works full-time, and both of them dropped out of school. I've offered that if they find a place in a reasonable price range, I'll take care of the deposit, help get utilities turned on, pay half the rent each month, and continue paying Kate's car insurance and phone bill. I also told them that once the baby's born, I'm more than happy to help if the baby needs formula, diapers, wipes, clothes, etc. Kate and Matt were very happy about that until they heard my caveat. My caveat is I directly buy what they ask for. They can send me the links to what they want for the baby, but I will not give them any actual cash. The same applies to helping them with the deposit and the rent. I'll write a check directly to the apartment complex. I've seen how Kate and Matt handle money, like there's just more randomly lying around. They go out and spend all weekend, as Matt gets paid on Friday. Then by Tuesday, Kate's usually asking me for gas money on behalf of Matt because he's broke. She doesn't work, and his parents aren't financially stable enough to help out. Kate immediately objected to my conditions and said I was being unfair to her and Matt, treating them like children, and I should want to help out in any way they need or want me to. I told Kate from past observations that my choosing not to give them money is not something I'm willing to discuss or negotiate on right now. If that's something they need, either Kate goes back to work, since she is having an extremely easy pregnancy, or they ask Matt's parents for money in hand and try their luck doing that. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Two adults who are not financially responsible got pregnant and expect you to support them financially in full? They're very lucky you want to do anything for them. Your deal is more than reasonable. But honestly, I think you're giving them too much. You're telling your daughter not to worry about work? You'll cover all of her expenses in her household? And she'll probably just keep getting pregnant. There will be no thinking about if they can afford babies number 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 because OP will pay for it. Kate isn't being taught financial responsibility, just the opposite. She's being taught that mommy will bail her out. When OP said there was a caveat, I thought it would be the daughter getting a job with health insurance. I cannot fathom that thought process that leads to quitting a job when I have a baby on the way. They both sound way too immature for this. What do you think will happen when they decide not to pay half of the rent or the electric bills? They'll ask you to pay for everything. For the baby, obviously. You've been enabling them until now, and you've created this problem to some extent. Tough love is the only way to get them to see the light. Personally, in your shoes, I would only pay for baby items, and if they fall homeless, you'll take in their baby, and they can go to a homeless shelter. I don't think they'll learn until actual consequences bite them in the butt. 100% this. OP, you are the idiot. You've enabled her. She thought quitting her job was the right move. What gave her that idea? She can't even manage to pay her phone bill? Are you willing to see them evicted because the only part of the rent that'll be paid is the half you pay. No, I didn't think so. In reality, you're on the hook for all the rent. You're actually setting them up for disaster. They're both grown adults. Stop enabling bad behavior, laziness, and careless behavior. Raise your children and enjoy your grandchildren. Enjoy your children and raise your grandchildren. I love my wife. She's an incredible person who shines, but she has a flaw. She's a terrible driver. If there were a prize for the person who crashed the most in the garage, she would have won by far. She could crash a new car 5 minutes after buying it, and it's very common for her to scrape her car over the course of a year. At home, we have my car and her car. I recently bought my dream car 2 months ago, and I only drive it alone. She bought hers last year. The situation. Saturday, my wife hit a pole. Don't ask how. She wasn't hurt, but the car will need to be repaired for 20 plus days. Normally when this happens, I give her a ride to work. This week I'm going on a business trip, so I won't be able to help. And here comes the problem, that I don't want her to drive my car in the meantime, because it's new, and I'm afraid something will happen, because any repairs are expensive to my car. She was bringing up the subject of picking up my car for the week, since the car would be free. I sat down with her, and in a more affectionate way, said that I would prefer her to take an Uber every day for whatever she needed that I would pay for, as I didn't want to run the risk of her scratching the new car. She didn't handle it well, saying that it was ridiculous that she had to order Uber when she had a car parked in the garage, and that it was ridiculous that I didn't allow her to drive our family car. I stood my ground and she accepted it, but she was upset with me for doing it. And no, she's not using the car while I travel. And yes, I wouldn't mind lending her the car if she was a better driver. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, but I almost want to say you are the idiot for allowing her to drive. Not that she needs your permission, but I'm shocked you haven't insisted that she not drive until she can do so safely. I would be highly concerned for her safety and others if I were in your position. I mean, she's a grown woman, so there's really nothing he can do. I'm just baffled that the conversation is, I don't feel comfortable with you driving my car since you keep damaging yours, and not, I'm worried about you driving any car since you keep getting into accidents. She just hit a pole. I'm surprised she hasn't been seriously injured yet. Oh, and I want to know what their insurance premiums are. I'm guessing they don't report the vast majority of it, which is why she still has insurance. OP, it's your car, not a family car. She's a horrible driver. Sounds like she shouldn't be behind the wheel at all. Make sure all sets of car keys are with you while you're away. Better still, please don't leave your car at home. Park it somewhere else. Take the keys with you. She will 100% drive it just to say, see, I drove it, and everything is okay. If she's this kind of reckless driver, I wouldn't let her drive my car either. I wouldn't even buy new cars for her if they need to be repaired this many times. She has to see how bad she is at it. I don't know if you guys have kids, but honestly, she needs to take more driver lessons. Someday her bad driving could end very badly. So I, 23 female, am an avid shopper, and I love to get things at estate sales in my area. I buy all my designer goods, most vintage, so it's amazing quality, from them, and they're a hidden gem, since barely any people even go to them in my area. So I've been able to find amazing things. I bought so much jewelry and clothes and furniture from estate sales that I later got appraised for thousands, while I spent $300 on it max. I've been able to find amazing things for a cheap price. I love decorating my condo with the things I buy and ensuring all my extremely expensive things are kept safe in a storage unit. I will bring them out once I buy a house in the upcoming years. I went to an estate sale this summer and mainly bought clothes and a beautiful vase. I bought it for $40, and it didn't look expensive to me, but another collector friend saw it in the background of one of my stories and asked me where I got it from. They said it looked like a vintage vase he had been looking for. I got it appraised and found out it was worth $3,500. I made sure to get its authentication as well. I did leave it in my bookcase and decided to keep it as decoration. even though I typically put expensive furniture and decor in my storage unit. This week, my boyfriend 30 came over and unexpectedly brought his tween son. He lives in New York City with his mom, and he has him during the summer, but he returned to stay with my boyfriend for a bit since his mom just had a baby in the NICU. I didn't mind since his son is nice and has never damaged anything of mine. When his dad and I were cooking in the kitchen, he was watching TV in my living room. Suddenly I heard a crash, and we ran into my living room to see my new vase shattered. His son started crying, saying he wanted to see a book I had on my bookshelf. He saw the vase, thought it looked cool, and touched it, and it fell. His dad reassured him and said that it was okay, he'd replace it, and he wanted to ensure he wasn't hurt. I was upset but said it was okay and kept my composure. Later, I spoke to him when he came over alone, and we agreed he would pay me back. He asked me how much it was, and I said it was worth $3,500. He raised an eyebrow and asked how much I paid, since he knows I always find things at the sales, and I was honest and said $40. He told me he would pay me the $40, and I said absolutely not. Just because the woman who sold me didn't know its true price doesn't mean that I don't, and if I ever sold it, I would charge its appraisal worth, so he needs to pay me back the appraised price. He's not hurting for money. He makes $800K a year. I make $200K, so I'm not asking him to as if I don't have the money. It's the principle. Since his son broke it, he should pay the appraised price. He sent me the money but was upset, saying I was an idiot since I got it for so much cheaper. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. His son broke it. It doesn't matter how much it cost you initially. If you said you wanted it to be replaced or purchase one similar, it would cost you $3,500. That's the value of the item and the price your boyfriend has to pay. Insurers would love to pay purchase price for antiques, etc., but have to pay the valuation or replacement price. Why should your boyfriend be any different? Ask him if he would be happy to accept the initial purchase price of his house from an insurer, or if he would expect to receive the present-day market value price. I'm sure we all know what his answer would be. So there's no difference, whether it be a house or a vase. I wouldn't even ask him for the money. I'd ask him to replace the actual item. If he can find the same one for $40, good for him. If he can't find it for less than $5,000, it sucks to be him. Or, if you light his winning lotto ticket on fire, you only owe him $1, right? That's selfish, dishonest, idiot positioning right there. You might want to rethink a relationship with someone who acts like this. The fact that you both can afford this kind of expense means that the question is much more straightforward than it might otherwise be if $3,500 were fully out of his reach. They're bringing in $1 million between them a year, and they're bothered about something OP paid $40 for? Everyone's the idiot here. Rich people problems are so hard. You are the idiot. Avid shopper, not a biz. If I ever sold it, and appraised value aren't the same as for sale, or what one could get for it. Can't go wrong treating friends and family like you'd want to be treated, especially a nice kid who took it badly. Regarding principles, this feels like turning a kid's accident into a money grab. Child, vase, accident, tale as old as time. If I were the boyfriend, I would pay for the vase and break up with you. It would be the best $3,500 he ever spent. My husband and I were married for 12 years before he passed away. We have 2 kids together. He also has 2 kids from a previous relationship. When he passed away, his ex expressed wanting to keep things the same and have the kids spending time together. However, she meant the custody schedule, indicating that I still have her kids 50% of the time. I miss my husband and was always close with my stepkids, so I agreed. 3 years have passed and the kids are teens, and I still want them in my life. However, I want to start forming my own habits, traditions, and vacations without her input, such as vacations on her off time, and not taking them, me not spending enough on birthdays, and her asking me for money for their sports and interest. When I brought this up, she threw a fit and literally said I was abandoning them, just like their dad. I'm showing my true colors. Clearly, I never loved them like I said I did. I explained that they could still come over and would still have their rooms, but if I want to go to my parents who live hours away, I don't want to have to clear it with her anymore, because I also don't want them at my house unsupervised, not because I don't trust them, but because they're still young. She's literally hired a lawyer and is trying to establish that I agreed to a custody arrangement, and she wants child support since we always had more money. My husband had money set aside for his kids when we met, and when he died, I sold his assets and split the money between all 4 kids. His life insurance was also split in 5 for all of us. The house was mine, so it was never written to be left to his kids. The estate lawyer set it up where they get money at a certain age, and she got a monthly amount to help raise them. I don't believe I owe her more. Some people in our life are split, since it seems like I did agree to custody, but I was just trying to be a stable figure for them. Am I wrong for wanting her to screw off and not wanting to give her anything? This whole thing seems ridiculous, but her lawyer is attacking me. Not the idiot. She's trying to make you share in the rearing and the bill for her kids because you were their step-parent? I don't think so, man. You already are being generous, a part of their life actively, and are trying to withhold money left to them by their father. Plus, this was an agreement you made when husband died. Died? To hold you to that agreement 3 years later is a complete idiot move. There are very few widows and widowers who would have done what you did. I'm sorry you're having to struggle through this. It's not fair to you or any of these children. Exactly. She's ridiculous. I'm surprised the lawyer is even entertaining this. That woman has been scamming you out of free babysitting for years. Stop this. The kids are old enough to catch up socially. All they want. Don't give the leech any more blood. I would have nipped this in the bud a long time ago. You're under no obligation to co-parent these kids. If you haven't already, I will get a lawyer to stop her from harassing you and learn your rights. But I am curious. You watch her kids. Do your kids go to her place? Never. She said because they had never visited her before my husband died, there was no reason for it to start now. I honestly think I have them that much still because they want to be here, because she's always off doing her own thing. But if I ever took them somewhere on my time, she'd probably charge me with kidnapping. She and my late husband never married and had kids really young. My parents didn't like the idea of me being young and dating someone with kids and suggested I break it off. I was pretty rebellious, so we got married after knowing him for 6 or 7 months before the wedding. Oh, wow, I'm reeling. This is madness. I'm so sorry you've been taken advantage of so much. Wow, let her yell and fuss. You legally have no obligation to her or her kids. You are not blood related. You didn't adopt them, and there's no legal tie. She's just upset that she can't fob them off on you anymore. Sit down with the kids, explain things, and go finally live your life. You're not the ex-girlfriend's kid's parent or guardian. You don't have any legal claim and no responsibility. Excuse me? Can we do the math? Stepkids are teens. OP's husband died 3 years ago. They were married, not just together, but OP says married for 12 years. OP was dating her late husband while his ex was pregnant. I can't really blame her for being a bit hostile to OP generally and wanting to get everything she can out of OP's late husband's assets. Again, get a lawyer now. Bio daughter's dad and my relationship did not end on good terms. While I tried my best to keep the children out of it, he disagreed, and in an attempt to get the kids to side with him, he went on a smear campaign against me. While he didn't accomplish his goal of getting them to want to be with him, he was successful in straining my relationship with my daughter. I tried therapy and everything possible, but she stopped participating once she was old enough to refuse. I remarried when my bio daughter was 13, and my husband had a daughter 2 years younger than our bio daughter. Since the beginning, the girls did not get along. At first, bio daughter was the one instigating, but eventually, the hate became mutual in their teen years. Both girls are now in their mid-20s, and their relationship has not gotten any better. Bio daughter's getting married next year, and she's having a relatively large wedding. I knew since the beginning that my stepdaughter was not in the wedding party. Still, everyone assumed she would at least be invited to the ceremony. While talking about the wedding, the topic of my stepdaughter was brought up. At that point, my daughter said that my stepdaughter wasn't invited. When I asked her why, her reasoning is that she wanted an intimate wedding. This would normally be a reasonable response, except that even friends she hasn't seen since elementary school were invited, but her stepsister was not. So I pressed her, and she said she wasn't invited because she's not family. I said if stepsister's not family, then neither is stepdad and her half-siblings, and by proxy, I'm also not family. And so if it's a family-only wedding, then there's no point in me attending. She obviously got upset and started screaming and ended up leaving. She told her aunts and grandparents, and everyone's saying that I'm an idiot for refusing to attend her wedding. You are the idiot. Who died and made you the wedding guest list police? You say your relationship is strained. I wonder why. Obviously, you favor your stepdaughter. You say their hate is mutual. Why on earth should I invite someone to my wedding who hates me? You can't choose family, but you can choose who you invite to your wedding. It's well within her right to exclude someone she dislikes and is disliked by. Why do you think it's reasonable to pressure her into inviting her stepsister with that kind of ultimatum? Why would it even be important to you? What is the benefit of having stepdaughter there at all? Sorry, but I think your daughter will go no contact soon, and she'll be right. I agree with this. The relationship isn't strained because of the ex-husband. It's strained because mom decided to prioritize her new family. If the girls mutually hate each other, why should daughter invite someone she hates to her wedding? You may be doing your daughter a favor by not attending her wedding. She doesn't need someone who can't put her first on one of her most important days. I hope your daughter goes no contact. It shouldn't be a big deal since you have your stepdaughter. Was it just me who felt cringe by OP calling her own daughter Bio? I suppose it was for clarity, but the massive overuse of Bio felt really awkward. Tell me your stepdaughter's the golden child without telling me she's the golden child. And we wonder why the Bio child doesn't like stepdaughter. Bio daughter probably loves being referred by Bio too. You're a Bio mom, idiot. I can't imagine why you're about to be estranged from your Bio baby. Don't blame your ex for straining your relationship with your daughter. You've managed to kill the relationship all on your own. I, 25 male, have been with my boyfriend, Liam, 28, for 2 years. Generally, we're in a very happy relationship, and we barely ever disagree on important matters, meaning that in those 2 years, I can't remember even one significant fight. That was until a few days ago. I barely even remember what we were arguing about, but it escalated, and at one point, we were both speaking with raised voices, not quite screaming, but close enough. The one thing I remember very clearly is how he told me to get out before he did something he'd regret. I don't think he was genuinely going to hurt me, but in that moment, those words did something to me, and I just grabbed my phone and took off. I called my best friend, Daisy, 26 female, who was kind enough to come and pick me up and take me to her flat. She told me that maybe spending the night away from each other wasn't the worst idea, to give us time to think about what had happened, and advised me not to make any decisions in the heat of the moment. I texted Liam to please not worry, that I was safe with Daisy and would spend the night at hers. I asked him to please give me some time to think, but said that I'd be ready to talk the next day and that I loved him. I turned off my phone without waiting for an answer, and the rest of the night was relatively uneventful, with me nodding off on the couch at some point. The next morning, I woke up and turned on my phone to face missed calls and messages from Liam, his best friend, 29 male, and his brother, 26. Apparently, after my message, he had taken off after me and had run a red light, resulting in him colliding with another car. Luckily, both my boyfriend and the other driver got away with concussions and a few bruises. After I read those messages, Daisy took me to the hospital, and I went to check on Liam, who was doing all right, considering the circumstances. We had a bit of admittedly tense small talk, and then seemingly out of the blue, he told me that none of this would have happened if I had just acted like an adult. Let's say our conversation didn't get less tense from this point on. Daisy tried to tell me that it wasn't my fault, as I couldn't have known he was going to follow me, and Liam's brother agreed with her and tried to console me. My boyfriend and his best friend told me that running away was an idiot move and that I was immature for turning off my phone and blocking him out, causing him to go after me and get into this accident. Not the idiot. Liam's behavior towards you is abusive. Blaming you for the accident instead of taking responsibility and admitting he was too angry to drive is the height of controlling and abusive behavior. Also, don't underestimate threats of violence. Generally, when people threaten, they mean it. You even messaged him to say that you were safe and to not worry about you. You even told him where you were. He had no reason to leave in a huff and then cause an accident. None of that is on you. It is actually very adult to walk away from a situation before you say things in the heat of the moment you don't really mean. I'm glad your boyfriend is okay, but you absolutely deserve an apology. This is not your fault. Exactly. What struck me as odd was, why was he racing to get to him? Why run a red light at all? It wasn't a life or death emergency. What was the purpose of seeking him out? To apologize, to attack, to make a huge dramatic scene? Running a red light to get to him was, at best, a very immature decision. It was entirely his own choice. A reasonable guy would recognize that he had made a mistake and be sheepish and embarrassed about it. Get out of this relationship. He's already warned you about who he is and what he'll do. My 27, wife's 23, grandmother is downsizing and moving into a retirement community. Rather than put everything into storage and wait until she passes away, her grandmother's giving away everything that won't fit in her new home to her family. Part of my wife's loot was a French butter keeper. If you don't know what that is, I'll try to explain. It's a ceramic bowl roughly the size of a large mug with no handle. The lid has a smaller bowl attached to it, and when you put it on, the smaller bowl fits inside the bigger bowl, upside down. That's important to the story. The bigger bowl has some water in it that keeps the butter cool and forms an airtight seal to protect the butter. I told my wife that it was really cool, and I set it up. She said that I set it up wrong, and she emptied out the water and flipped the thing upside down. About a week later, I came home and she was crying because she broke it. A little butter had gotten between the bowls and made them kind of tacky, I guess. When she picked up the outer bowl lid, the smaller one came with it. Butter does not make a good adhesive, so when it was a few inches up, the bottom came loose and fell. It hit at just the wrong angle and broke. My wife says I should have explained better why she was wrong. She said that I let her break it to prove a point. She's upset with me for letting her break a gift. I don't know what she would have wanted me to explain. Gravity? The adhesive coefficient of butter? I showed her the right way and let her have her way when she called it dumb. I think if she really cared, it would have taken 5 seconds to YouTube a video of how to use the darn thing. Not the idiot. You can lead a horse to water, but she's projecting and is rationalizing because the item meant something to her and she messed it up. It's a safe bet if you did anything else, she'd have accused you of mansplaining. She was content with her approach for a week and didn't realize how delicate and irreplaceable it was until it was lost. This older technology doesn't always work in a logical way to people today. She unilaterally decided that she knew better, messed with it, and eventually broke it through misuse. OP feels very "I told you so" about it, but it feels deserved considering her attitude is, "I broke it, but it's your fault. You didn't correct me when I called you dumb." But this isn't about the butter dish. She's coming to terms with her grandma coming to the end of her life, and she broke what she had been gifted to remember her by. Your wife's feeling stupid and guilty. You don't need to add "I told you so" into the mix. It isn't necessary, it isn't helpful, and it isn't kind. This isn't the time to gloat or point fingers. She shouldn't have shifted the blame, but this is an emotional time for her. Have some compassion. My wife Mia and I have 3 children, and we're expecting our 4th. 2 of our 3 kids are not named after others. We just really love their names. Our oldest, however, is named Taylor, after the nurse who delivered her and saved her and my wife's lives. Nurse Taylor did something I can never repay him for, and without him, they wouldn't be here today. It seemed fitting to honor him. My family assumed that naming Taylor after someone would mean we would do the same with our other kids, but we had never planned on using honor names. Special circumstances and a very special man are why we did with our oldest. Since learning of this pregnancy and knowing it's our last, my parents and siblings have dropped comments about honor names and how special and beautiful it would be for the youngest to hold a name that honors someone in their family. I and we have always told them that we would not be giving our youngest an honor name, and I told them to let the topic go. Mia got a lot of comments behind my back because they were willing to press harder on her than me. They used a few guilt cards, which I don't appreciate. After my wife was left a lengthy voicemail about the importance of honoring those closest to us and making Taylor feel less alone and being the only one named after someone, I had grown sick and tired of my family. So I stopped by my parents' house, asked my siblings to come and ask them if they wanted the youngest to be given an honor name. Yes, then they better get ready to go above and beyond and save one of our lives, because that's the level they need to meet. I said if they did not or could not do that, to shut up about it and accept that our child will get a name that we love. My family called me a rude idiot and said I was behaving like a petty child, throwing that in their face. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. They're the ones behaving like petty children, and projecting feelings of loneliness onto Taylor is beyond ridiculous. Honestly, they're grasping for straws so hard with that argument that I had to laugh. If anything, the other kids will wonder why they just got random names their parents liked, while their older sibling got named after a kick-ass life-saving nurse. They're the ones that are behaving like petty children. Honestly, it sounds like OP is the petty one. How difficult would it be to honor every one of their family members with a conjoined name? Chris Sam Shanahimathy. Now everyone's honored. Respectfully, I have to disagree. Signed, William Michael Leon. I really don't understand why people care so much about another kid's name when it really doesn't have anything to do with them. If they really want to honor someone, then they can do it with their own kids. No one is stopping them. People should learn to stop meddling in others' business. I have been married to my husband for 25 years. He has 2 children from his first marriage, Kai, who's 28, and Mia is 27. My husband's first marriage ended during the pregnancy with Mia when his ex moved another man into their home. She told my husband to leave, and she was planning to marry the other guy. A DNA test was done when Mia was born, and another one was done on Kai later. Custody was decided, and the divorce was finalized when Mia was still a baby. I met him 6 months later, and we married after a year together. My husband's ex made our lives a nightmare. She alienated the kids from me. We were in and out of court and therapy, and they were always placed in mediation and co-parenting classes to try and get them to a better place. Nothing helped. Her second husband left, and that only made her worse. Then she married again, but that also ended. My relationship with my stepkids breaks my heart. I love them. I've always tried to be a respectful and loving step-parent who doesn't talk bad about their mom, overstep my place, or assume that they would love me like their parents. But I hoped we would be close. Instead, they have been rude or distant and cold. But I loved them regardless, and my husband took the lead with them. When my husband and I had 2 children together, they did not bond with them, but we still hoped time and therapy would help form some relationship. Now my stepson is due to get married. He told my husband our kids were not invited since it was a child-free wedding. But then he told me what I couldn't wear because the two mothers were going to match the theme, and I'm not counted in that. He said that I wouldn't be given a corsage to wear so people would know that I was not one of the parents. He said I would not be mentioned in any toast. I was not welcome to give a toast, and the photos with the parents and immediate family would not include me. After my husband asked him why he was making such a big deal out of this, he said I needed to know my place and admitted he didn't even want me there. So I decided not to attend and stayed home with my children. I've reached a breaking point where I no longer see a future where we might get along better, and clearly I'm not wanted at all. But my husband's family are furious and say I was invited, so I should go. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You're giving him the gift he wants. You not there. Don't put yourself through it. Take your kids on vacation. Your husband's son, because that's what he is, has told you the role you play in his life and his expectation for your attendance at the wedding, and he doesn't want you to go. An invitation is just that, an invite, and you're free to accept or decline as you see fit. He wants her there to show the world how much he despises her. By not going, OP is ruining all of his well-planned revenge. He wants you to know your place. Not only should you not go, but you should also hire a pack of wild clowns to show up during the ceremony. And your husband needs to tell his family to leave you alone. An invitation made grudgingly and with all these terms and conditions on it is not a sincere invitation. Agreed, the stepson consents to have OP at his wedding so that he can performatively demonstrate just how unimportant to him she is, which is backward, mind you, because if he truly didn't care about her, he wouldn't go to so much effort. But OP can choose whether to be treated like this or not. Of course, no self-respecting person would consent to be treated like this. So OP, stand your ground. Ask him and his flying monkeys why he wants you there so much if the only purpose of the invitation is to humiliate you. Your in-laws want you there because they don't want to acknowledge the dysfunction in their son's family. I would advise you to tell your husband, in no uncertain terms, that he should not be seated next to his ex and not stand next to his ex in any photos. You've been with their father for 25 years. Even just as his wife and not a step-parent, you deserve more respect than that. I wish him the life and the marriage he deserves. My male 57, daughter 32, has been divorced thrice. She got married at 25 to the love of her life. I gave her $15,000 as help for the wedding. The marriage lasted 3 years. Then she married the love of her life when she was 30. I gave her $5,000 for a much smaller, more intimate wedding. The marriage lasted 1 year. She married the guy that got her pregnant while she was still married to her second husband. She and her third husband divorced before my grandson was 1. She has again met the love of her life and needs money for the wedding. I said I would skip the wedding, but I'll help her with the next one. Now she's crying to her mother, calling me an idiot for not believing in her future. I've managed to stay married for 33 years. It's not that difficult. My wife wants me to make peace by giving her some money, but it's a waste. Am I the idiot for my bad attitude towards my daughter's relationship? Edit. I don't want to insult people when I say it's not that difficult, so I feel I should explain what I meant. I met my wife when she was married to a guy I worked with. He passed away in an industrial accident. I saw it happen. After the funeral, we became friends. 3 years later, we realized we cared for each other, so we started dating. We had our ups and downs and went for counseling when we went through a rough patch. We work hard at being there for each other. My wife is beautiful and probably had many opportunities to be unfaithful, but she chose to stay with me and work on our marriage. I saw all the young guys my age having fun and partying when I was using my wages to pay for my son's medical bills. I also chose to stay and work on my marriage. I'm trying to remember who said it, but it also applies to marriage. In war, everything is simple, but even the simplest things are difficult. Not the idiot. Was your comment callous? A bit, but that doesn't make it untrue. $20,000 over 3 weddings is fine. She can pay her own way now. This girl has had 3 weddings in 7 years. She needs to hear a harsh truth. My relationship with my car has lasted longer than all of the loves of her life combined times 2. My petty self would offer to pay for premarital counseling instead. Might be worth the expense. Your daughter's marriage success is directly proportional to the amount you contribute to her weddings, where 1 year equals $5,000. So, if I'm right, for her next marriage to last as long as your own, you'll need to invest $165,000. At age 32, she can pay for her own party. About your attitude towards her relationships, whether this is the love of her life or the next in line divorce, she can still pay for her own party. It sounds like your daughter thinks you're an ATM though, so tell her to elope next time, and the time after that, and I think your daughter likes the idea of a wedding more than staying married. More seriously, you are under no obligation to fund another party for her. Save the money for your grandkids' education and/or for their therapy, or just go on a vacation with the grandkids. I am honestly mostly shocked and confused, but basically, my little brother, 28, and his wife, 29, and their kids were having dinner at my house with me and my wife, both late 30s, female. Their eldest son is a happy preschooler and absolutely fun to be around. He's always talking and I adore it. Admittedly, my wife isn't a huge fan of kids, but she knows how much I love my nephews and my brother and his wife, so she compromises, the same way I compromise with her having her homophobic mother over very often. Anyway, we ate dinner and sat in the living room. I put on my nephew's favorite movie, which is Coco. He kept telling us how he wanted to be a singer like the main character, Miguel, and would sing along and perform every song. My wife didn't look entertained, but she was involved in talking to us, so I didn't think there was an issue. Well, he kept singing this one song, and my wife slammed her cup of tea on the table, yelled at him to shut up, and proceeded to say that he was a terrible singer and would never be like Miguel. He obviously began to sob and ran to his parents, who were furious. They told my wife that if she had an issue with his singing, she should have told them, and they could have distracted him. Then they left. My wife looked at me and laughed, saying that she was just telling the truth, but I wasn't having it. I told her she was a massive bully and had no right to speak to him that way. She told me to just chill the heck out, and she was just doing the world a favor by crushing his dreams. She said this as a joke, but it didn't sit right with me at all. I guess I made a face of disbelief and shock because she sounded so cruel to me, and I asked her if she was proud of herself and sarcastically said, "Because boy, am I glad my wife crushed my little nephew's dreams." She told me to stop mocking her and then called me dramatic and an oversensitive witch who should defend her and take her side as her wife. She's never called me that before, and now I'm wondering if I was wrong to mock her and not even attempt to defend her. But also, why was she taking so much pride in what she said? I don't know. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. She bullied a preschooler, and she laughed. My question is, why are you with someone who could be cruel to a member of your family, one who cannot stand up for himself and is the most vulnerable, and calls you names for calling her out for what she is? Frankly, it's divorce-worthy. Why? Because anyone who would treat a little kid with such cruelty is probably capable of just about anything and can't be trusted. She likely just ruined your relationship with your brother and sister-in-law. How many more relationships will she ruin in the coming years due to this indefensible behavior? The fact that she doesn't feel bad about it and is doubling down is just icing on the cake. I personally would have great difficulty looking at her the same way again after watching her crush a kid, none of whom can sing well, like that. Gross as heck. Bro, seriously, I have to ask you how you feel now that your wife was abusive to a child, then turned around, laughed about it, then excused her behavior because it's the truth? Are you okay with all of that? I can tell you're not because of what you said here. You know it's terribly wrong. So why are you asking? Also, to salvage the situation, she expected you to take her side when she bullied a child? Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what wife needed to be defended from. I'm questioning if she thought it was wrong. She's just trying to ignore she did it because she's not sorry. That's a major red flag. If you let this pass, then who knows what her behavior toward your nephew and any future children in the family will be. I'd be seriously rethinking this whole relationship. My wife and I have 2 daughters, Julia, kindergartner, and Alina, toddler. I've always been close to my family, and my parents are really involved with my daughters. They regularly babysat Julia since she was around 1, and then Alina. Currently, it's 2 or 3 times a week. I know that sounds like a lot, but it always seemed to be their choice. We were always able to afford normal childcare. Originally, that was the plan when my leave was finished. However, my parents thought it was a waste since mom could watch them and they could spend time with their grandchild instead. The whole system happened because they asked for it. We do thank them and appreciate it, and our girls are really close to them. However, I overheard my parents complaining to my sister about it around 3 weeks ago. Apparently, we're being selfish and basically just pawning off our children, abandoning our responsibility. I was pretty upset and we ended up arguing about it. They said that we're essentially crap parents who refuse to do our job, and we shouldn't just leave our children to them. But we literally only did that because they wanted to be there for our kids. We didn't bring it up or force it. Whenever they couldn't, we found backup options. Since then, we haven't left Julia or Alina with my parents. After discovering how two-faced they were about it, I have no interest in it. So we've got a temporary alternative and are looking into more permanent options. Last week, my mom asked when we would bring the kids over, and I told her we weren't. I don't want to abandon my duty, and I feel uncomfortable having my children around someone who thinks so little of my wife and me. I mean, I don't want our girls to start thinking we don't care. My parents are mad and think I'm being entitled and unreasonable, but I think it's a reasonable boundary. My sister has jumped in, claiming I'm a horrible son and taking advantage of them, but they clearly didn't think I should give my responsibility away to them, so I'm not. My wife is conflicted, and I know Julia was really close to them, so part of me is worried my reaction is unreasonable. Am I the idiot here? Not the idiot. Your mom was talking crap behind your back to your sister, then blamed you when she got caught, then doubled down and accused you and your wife of bad parenting. If you could walk up and hear it, so could your kids. Stay strong. You're not wrong. She is. I think they like the martyr role, and that's all. They did this to themselves. If you want, force them to admit it was their choice publicly. After that, they can have babysitting time with the kids. Till then, they can suck on an onion. Disagree. OP's parents sound like mine. If I've learned anything, it's this. You can't win with people like this. If you start letting the kids back, they'll complain you're taking advantage. If you don't, you're keeping them from their grandchildren. If it were me, I'd find a childcare provider and squash any further discussion of my parents babysitting. Otherwise, the argument will likely repeat itself. You can't please people who want to be the victim. So, I, 23 male, and my girlfriend, Jen, 20, moved in together about 4 months ago. We know living together is harder than just dating, so we sat down and agreed on several things. Like, we're responsible for our own laundry. We also split chores on a rotation, like I'll clean the bathroom one week and she'll clean it the next week. We agreed if one person cooks or buys the food, the other person washes the dishes. We also agreed if we have friends over, the person who cooks doesn't do the dishes. This is because we don't have huge parties. Our apartment is small, and we only invite a few friends, so there are not a ton of dishes. Anyway, I like to cook and I'm better at it, so it just works out that I cook more often. Don't get me wrong, she cooks too, but much less. So this weekend, we had her best friend and her boyfriend over, and I cooked dinner. We ate and had a good time. Once dinner was over, I brought my plates and stuff to the sink and then returned to my seat. We were talking and having a good time. Then Jen got up and told the group she wanted to do the dishes before we headed out. Her best friend asked why I didn't help, and I answered because it was her job. I didn't think anything of it, and we eventually went out. Jen was acting off all week, and when I asked her what was wrong, she answered she wasn't feeling well. Today she came home and she said we needed to talk. She tells me that she doesn't want to do the dishes anymore and that my answer to her friend sucked. I almost didn't know what she was talking about because I didn't realize that I had done anything wrong. Then I remembered the dinner and told her that what I said was true. It was my job to cook and hers to wash. She said I could have worded it differently. So now she refuses to wash the dishes. I said that's fine, she can cook, and I'll wash the dishes, and she can post it all over social media and tell her friends it's my job to wash the dishes. I don't have a problem with that. She didn't like that answer either and stormed off to bed. This morning I made the breakfast for both of us. She ate without saying anything, then left her dirty dishes in the sink, then went out. I guess she's serious about not washing the dishes again. Not the idiot. You could have been clearer and said, it's her turn because I cooked. Pretty sure her friends ragged on her about what you said, and instead of just explaining it and moving on, she let it get to her. She doesn't want to do the dishes anymore? That's just childish. I would talk to her again and see if she's ready to have an adult conversation and act like one. I wouldn't cook for her anymore. She can do it all herself. You're not her mom or her maid. She can buy paper products and TV dinners then. It sounds like her friend told her that saying it's her job to do the dishes, it's a red flag, pulled from some random list, regardless of context. Now, being 20, she's struggling with the red flag and considering her life choices, because that's what you're supposed to do in red flags world. You are the idiot. You made it sound like she's your maid. It's her job. That's a very dismissive thing to say. Thinking before you speak is a good rule in any relationship. She's hurt that you think so little of her. That may not be true, but it sounded like it when you said it. Apologize without any buts and move on.